So following up on the video about throwing bowls off the hump, I'm going to do a little video about trimming bowls. Not trimming off the hump, but just trimming on the potter's wheel. So have a look, and because throwing is really only one part of the process, obviously. And so what we need to do is we need to trim off the excess. You can see here I've got, you know, a round inside, but the outside is very square. So somewhere in here I need to take off a whole bunch of clay right about there. All right, so this is how I go about it. I can take the trick right now is to get the wheel, or get the pot centered back on the wheel, but upside down. And you know, there's a number of different ways that people can get their pot recentered on the wheel. There's a device called a Giffen grip, which has automatic hands that clamp everything, and I used that for years when I was doing production pottery. But now I'm not so concerned about speed and time, so I can do it one of two ways. You know, I can hold my finger against it. If you don't have a Giffen grip, you can do it like this. Hold my finger against it, and where it hits, I'll stop the wheel like that, and then push it in towards the center of the wheel. And that's what these concentric rings on the outside of the wheel are for, is so that you can roughly place it. And you know, you could get away with trimming something like that. You really could, you know. And then I would take, you know, some little bits of clay, stick them down like this, and press down on both of them at the same time. Right? Because if you just press down on one, I'll show you. If you just press down on one, it moves the pot out of the round. And after you've just spent a half an hour doing this dumb thing, well, you know, it's really frustrating. So the best way I've ever found to do it is to take is something called tap centering, where you feel the out of center part hitting your finger, and you hit it at almost the same rhythm. And you know, I'm not really sure how to teach somebody to do this, but it is the best skill I have ever learned. The best pottery skill I learned in college was this, but that is a great trick. And it's even better if you can take the pot and wet it like so on the rim, and just hold it against the wheel and turn the wheel slowly, let it grind a little, and it will stick it to the wheel head. You know, depending on how hard or soft the piece is. But if I were going to use these little tabs of clay, I would take them, put them on both sides, press down on both at the same time. And I've seen people use just 3, and I'm not sure how they get away with that, but they do. I guess they hold the pot down and press them down. But I've always used 4. That's just the way I was taught. That's all. You know, we all teach the way we're taught, right? So there we go. I have my mission is accomplished. I've got my pot centered on the wheel head, right? So now I'm going to take the middle finger of my left hand, which is braced on my leg or on the splash pan, someplace comfortable, and I'm going to take my trimming tool. Hold on, back up the train. Let's talk about trimming tools. This is a Mud Tools tool, which I love. This little trimming tool. It's kind of high end, not as high end as, say, a Dolan trimming tool, which is made of carbon steel. I've misplaced it anyway. So I've got one of those. But the most common trim tool that you'll see around are these aluminum trim tools, right? Like this. And I'm not sure how much they are. They're super cheap, but they wear out. You know, I mean, they wear out, but they're sharp as the dickens, and they'll cut through the clay, no problem. It's interesting to note, though, how the tool changes the look of the pot. And I'm not sure if I can demonstrate that, but I'll try. So I'm going to take one finger and put it on top, let my thumb fly out, so that I can brace my tool hand against that thumb. And that's the apex of my triangle. That's where I'm stabilized. And so now I can take my tool and starting down the side, go in, and this is just like working on a lathe, really, but I've never really worked on a lathe. I should talk to my friend Doug, see how it compares, but you know, it's kind of like working on a lathe but sideways. And this just peels the clay right off, right? So that peels the clay off. And I can go down like this. And I know that there's a lot of extra clay here, you know, so I can trim with reasonable abandon, you know. And I'm going to flatten the top off because it's a little bit uneven, you know, flatten the top off. And so then I'm going to take that and I'm going to establish the outside diameter of my foot ring, right? Nice deep foot ring, a foot ring that looks like it's meant to be there, a foot ring that wants to be there, right? And flatten the top of the foot ring out, and I'm going to use the corner of the tool, this corner of the tool, right here, to cut a groove. This finger will be here on the side of that carefully centered clay. This is bracing on the tool, and this is bracing the hand. So everything is double triangulated, so it's braced. So it's not going to get pushed out of the way. And somewhere around 2 o'clock, I'm going to dig that corner of the tool in. Right, if you would imagine this is a clock face, somewhere around 2 o'clock, I'm going to dig that in and put in a groove. Right? And then I'm going to peel this out from the inside. And it doesn't matter whether you go outside in or inside out, you know, whatever's comfortable for you, whatever's going to work, right? But I know, you know, the question that arises now is, well, how far down do I go, right? I know that this point here is the highest point in that arch that's on the inside of the bowl. So I know that that is going to be the weakest spot. I'm going to carve down, if I were to carve down, that would be the spot that would break through first. So if I press on it a little bit and it gives just a little bit, I know that I'm pretty much just right where I want to be, and then I can just go over and clean up the surface. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to turn it vertically and address the inside wall of the foot ring, like so. And that curve there is going to extend through the foot ring and probably end up somewhere about there. Now if I want to, I like trimming. I like trimming a lot. Well, one thing is for sure, be sure to get rid of these, see this sharp edge right here, there and there on the foot ring. Get rid of it. Right. And then you might take a fingerful of water and just compress any rough bits back into the foot ring where it's not going to scratch the table, right? So there you go. There's, you know, you want to make a foot ring that's, you know, I like trimming. I like clay when it's leather hard, because you can put in some details when you're trimming. Now, if I want this bowl, if I want to slip decorate this bowl, I, you know, need a surface that is nice and smooth on the outside here. So, you know, I can take a rib of some kind, you know, and go over the outside and clean that up. And you just want to be careful what kind of surface you leave. You know, if your clay has any grog in it, doing something like that is just going to leave all sorts of lines across, trail lines across your piece. But, you can always get rid of them again by going over it with a damp sponge. So there you go. There's my foot ring, right? And that's the same, I would do the same thing for plates or whatever I want to put a foot ring on. It's pretty much the same process, right? It might be, a few less details, but that's pretty much it, So there you go. All right, and I'll show you how firmly that wetting the rim, if you wet the rim, you don't really need to do this. Put these little tabs on. So it kind of saves you a bit of time. Give it a whack and it can come off. And now, the rim is a little bit toasted up. So, I'm going to take my sponge, and go over it. And there you go. That's a nice little bowl for cooking with or eating out of or whatever. Next, wet the rim, put it on there, let it grind a little till it grabs, right? And then you can tap center it, and when you give it a bang on the bottom, it forms a vacuum on the inside, and that pot will not let go unless the clay is so dry that it sucks up the water that is sealing it to the wheel head, and then it just gives. So that's why I always keep my foot on the foot pedal so that I can shut it off quickly. So that is that tool. Let's try this tool, right? So the Mud Tools tool. Again, I'm going to start down here and establish the outside diameter of the foot ring and peel away all that excess clay that I know is there. How wide you make your foot ring too is a consideration. This end here is for convex surfaces. That will smooth everything out nicely. And this is a really good end for concave surfaces. This is for convex surfaces. This is for concave surfaces, right? So you can get in there. I find this is helpful as well. This little hook at the end. When I was in college, a fellow named Larry Davidson came by and showed us how to make these cool Japanese tools. And I used that, revolutionized my bowls, my foot rings. I started making deep foot rings that looked like they were meant to be there. See that? It just automatically makes that deep foot ring. And peels that out, like so. And then you can refine the outside diameter of the foot ring. And this is a little off, but that's okay. Again, I like to take my time with these things. I'm doing this because I love it. I'm doing this because I want to, right? I want to trim the way that I throw. I can put in some nice details. Get rid of any sharp edges. How's that? I could probably take a little bit more off, actually. But that's no problem. I don't have to worry about recentering it because I can do this. It's such a handy skill, really. Unbelievable. I think probably the easiest way to learn how to tap center is to get like a, take a coffee cup and fill it full of clay and then turn it upside down on the wheel head and try it with that. And then if you can graduate to, a soup can and then graduate to, say, a pop can and then an empty pop can. Like if you can do an empty pop can, man, you got a light touch. That's for sure. Probably best to practice that kind of thing when you're alone. It makes a lot of noise when it hits the floor. Okay, there we go. So, there's some subtle differences between this foot ring and that foot ring, I suppose. Yeah. To each his own. Here we are. A wet finger to clean up that rim. Compress any roughness back into the body of the pot so that you can have a nice drinkable rim. Have your tea or your soup. Ta-da! Alright, there we go. Bowls. Make some bowls. Make them for empty bowls. Should be a little bit bigger than that, I think, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, that's trimming bowls. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it informative. So, off I go on to my next adventure, and I will see you on the bright side. Take care, folks. Bye.